Hey guys, in order to be healthy in today's day and age, we've got to do everything we can to keep inflammation under control. And so in today's video, I'm going to show you what inflammation is. I'm also going to go over the best diet and supplement strategies to support a healthy inflammatory process in your body. So what is inflammation? Inflammation is an immune response that your body makes in order to keep you alive. We know that bacteria and different infectious microbes have caused, literally infections have caused more death in the history of mankind than anything else, the leading cause of death. So why is that? Because when people used to get wounds, right? Like they get a big cut or a laceration or something like that, or they would be in a war or fighting, and they would get a big wound, bacteria would get into that flesh wound, spread throughout the body, or they would eat something that was like contaminated and it would get into their system, it would spread throughout their body, get into their lungs, and they would get pneumonia, or they would get, in their nervous system, they would get meningitis or encephalitis, something along those lines, and would kill them. And so the body has adapted over time to try to give us the greatest possible survival advantage, and it's created this process of inflammation. And inflammation is where these immune cells start targeting abnormal proteins. So it doesn't even have to be bacteria or yeast organisms or things like that, just any sort of protein that it doesn't recognize. This is why some people will have problems with that pollen, for example. Their immune system starts going haywire because it's an abnormal protein. And so when it sees these abnormal proteins, it thinks, okay, this protein could be something that kills me, so I need to have a really strong immune response, and it creates inflammation. And that inflammation can be very good for a short-term process, like if we're trying to heal a wound, or if we sprain our ankle for the short period of time, it helps clean up the area. But we ultimately want to keep it under control. We want to support a healthy inflammatory process. Otherwise, if inflammation's constantly turned on, it literally chews up our brain, right? It chews up our body. So in our brain, it damages the tissue and it creates dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. In the short term, when you're younger, you experience it with things like brain fog, anxiety, depression. But over time, it leads to those sorts of chronic diseases, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. In our joints, it ends up creating pain. It can end up causing issues with our skin, whether it's eczema or acne or psoriasis. Literally every system of our body can be affected by inflammation. We know that's really the underlying root cause of heart disease, for example. It's inflammation in our blood vessels. So we have to keep inflammation under control. How do we do that? Well, diet plays a really big role. So what do we do with our diet? We have to keep blood sugar and insulin stable. Blood sugar is very important to keep in this very sensitive range. When our sugar goes way up in our blood, the molecules bind to proteins and they create sticky proteins. We actually call those advanced glycation end products, AGEs. AGEs, what do you think that does to us? It accelerates the aging process. These sticky proteins are like shrapnel going through our blood vessels, creating massive oxidative stress and damage to our blood vessels, right? And our body responds by creating plaque, which is basically scar tissue. And ultimately, over time, that leads to heart disease. They damage the kidneys. They damage our nervous system. And so in order to prevent against high blood sugar, the body creates something called insulin. Insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas. Insulin comes out, takes sugar out of the bloodstream, puts it into the cells where it belongs to be used for energy. However, when insulin is elevated, insulin also turns on, or I should say it turns off fat burning, turns on fat storage. So we start storing body fat, and it promotes more inflammation in our system. So we need a diet that really stabilizes that. How do we eat in order to stabilize our blood sugar and our insulin? Well, first thing we want to do is reduce the amount of sugar and carbs that we're consuming. So the overall amount of sugar and starch, that's going to drive up blood sugar and insulin. So get your sugar and your starch down. Get rid of bad fats, things like corn oil, soybeans, safflower, cottonseed, canola oil, peanut oil. These are all very high in omega-6 fats. They create more inflammation in our system, and they drive up and they create more insulin resistance from our cellular level. They actually damage the hormone receptors. And so it's very important to get rid of those bad fats, add in good fats, things like coconut oil, coconut fats, avocados, avocado oil, olives, all really good fats. Grass-fed butter, I'm a huge fan of that. Pasture-raised eggs, grass-fed meats, right? These things are all great. So we're consuming more of these healthy fats, getting rid of the bad fats, and ideally trying to switch our meat products and consuming more grass-fed, organic, pasture-raised animal products, because conventional animal products have a lot of hormones and they have a lot of antibiotics and different toxins. They have chemicals, pesticides, and herbicides that have bioaccumulated into their meat and dairy. So the more we can reduce our exposure to those chemicals, the better off we're going to be. Those chemicals drive up inflammation, and they also contribute to the process of insulin resistance. And all of that, insulin resistance is an inflammatory based condition. And so reducing toxins, maximizing nutrients from a nutritional perspective. Again, good fats, also consuming nutrient dense foods, right? So that could be, non-starchy vegetables, real nutrient dense, herbs, things like turmeric and ginger and basil, oregano, thyme, these sort of aromatic herbs, putting them on our foods, really good strategy for helping improve digestion, helping get rid of bad microbes in our system, and helping keep our immune system strong, but also balanced, so it's not over-inflaming our body. So I highly recommend consuming a diet that's rich in these kinds of herbs. You can also drink herbal teas, green tea, ginger tea, echinacea tea, elderberry tea, different things like that. They're all really, really good for the body. So great things to be able to utilize. And again, so diet. And then, one other thing we need to focus on in diet is intermittent fasting and eating in a restricted time window. So let's say we eat our meals rather than, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which would be like a 12-hour eating window. Let's say we eat in a 8-hour eating window. So we eat our first meal at, let's say, 10 a.m. and we eat our last meal at 5 or finish up by 6 p.m. So we're eating in that 8-hour window. That gives us 16 hours of fasting between the time we go to bed and the time we eat in the morning. And during that fasting window, our body ramps up anti-inflammatory pathways. So it actually starts to reduce inflammation in our system, starts healing our gut lining, and starts breaking down old damaged tissues and cells and repairing them, a process called autophagy, which is self-eating, where our body starts repairing itself from the inside out. So doing that is a really great strategy for helping improve our response to inflammation. And then we need to look at supplements, right? So the diet strategies are foundational and super key, but we can also add in key supplements to help keep inflammation under control. So what kind of supplements are going to be really beneficial? Well, probiotics as a standalone can be great. We know that probiotics don't actually colonize our gut. They're actually more transitory. So they kind of come in for a short period of time and then go out. But what they do is they have more of like an antimicrobial or a pruning effect in our gut, where they help get rid of overgrowth of certain types of species and help create more diversity and balance in our gut microbiome. So probiotics are a great thing to help support good digestion and keep inflammation under control. Also fish oils or omega-3 fats, long-chain omega-3s, EPA and DHA, real powerful for keeping inflammation under control. They really play a big role with cellular health and our ability to send out the right signals called prostaglandins at the cellular level that have a lot to do with inflammation and triggering inflammation in the system. So fish oils can be a really great strategy. Vitamin D, another great one. Vitamin D is really almost like a master hormone. We call it a vitamin, but it actually acts more like a prohormone, where it turns on and off certain types of pathways. And when vitamin D is optimal, it helps keep inflammation very, very balanced. We get more T helper cells. T helper cells help our immune system to have a more accurate and a more balanced response. And when T helper cells are down, like when we're vitamin D deficient or zinc deficient, then we end up with more inflammation, right? Higher levels of inflammation in our system and a more disoriented immune response. And so very important to get our vitamin D levels where they should be. Now, what other things can we utilize besides vitamin D, fish oil, and probiotics? Well, one of my favorite things is using proteolytic enzymes. Proteolytic enzymes are actually enzymes that we take. They're kind of like digestive enzymes. In fact, they break down proteins. And so the key with this is you have to take it away from meals. Otherwise, they act like digestive enzymes. But our immune cells are proteins. So these are protein cells. And so if we have high amounts of, let's say, C-reactive protein, which we can test on blood, we always want that to be under 1 Okay, ideally like under 0.5, ideally, when you get your blood drawn. If that's up, it's elevated, that is a protein, right? A lot of these other things, tumor necrosis factor alpha, these are proteins, interleukins. These are all protein compounds. So we can actually metabolize these proteins and reduce these inflammatory markers by taking enzymes that get out into our bloodstream and they start to break these things down. So I have a product called Proteoenzymes that I utilize. In fact, I recently sprained my ankle and I was taking very high doses of this, and it really helped the healing process because these things will help your body form new, healthier scar tissue, new healthy tissue. They bring down the inflammation in general, and they just enhance the overall healing process. So proteolytic enzymes are great. Again, you got to take these away from meals, like at least 2 hours outside of meals, so they can get through your digestive system, get out into the bloodstream without, and still be fully intact without trying to like utilize themselves to break down protein, right? So when we take them with a meal, they're going to break down the protein, which can be beneficial for digestion. However, you're not going to get the anti-inflammatory effects like you will, the full body systemic anti-inflammatory effects like you will if you take them away from a meal. So proteolytic enzymes are fantastic. You know, another thing that's amazing, and you've probably heard of it, it's turmeric, right? This amazing herb, turmeric, one of the most well-studied anti-inflammatory herbs. It's renowned in India and throughout Asia. People have been using it when they make things like curries and golden milks and stuff like that. They use this, and it's again, so good for helping get inflammation under control. And some people have noticed just life-changing responses with it. And one of my favorite supplements for turmeric is Paleo Valley, right here, this turmeric complex. They use whole food-based turmeric, which has over 300 beneficial compounds, bioactive compounds in it. They also combine it with ginger, which is a great warming herb. Ginger is also amazing for reducing inflammation. So there's a natural synergy between ginger and turmeric. They also have rosemary in there and clove. Rosemary is great for the brain and helping get inflammation under control in the brain. Clove is really good for the gut. It actually helps to get rid of parasites, bad bacteria, yeast, different things like that. And they combine it with coconut oil and black pepper. And the fat from the coconut oil and the piperine from the black pepper helps optimize absorption. So you actually absorb the beneficial compounds that are in the turmeric over 2,000 times greater when you combine it with fat, like coconut oil, and piperine, which is in the black pepper. So it naturally helps stimulate optimal absorption. And I take this with meals, right? So again, taking it with fats actually helps enhance absorption. So I recommend taking it with meals as opposed to the proteolytic enzymes, which you take away from meals, okay? So your typical dosage on the proteolytic enzymes, it might be something like 5 caps twice a day, but you can ramp it up and take something like 15, 20 caps multiple times a day on the proteolytic enzymes. With the turmeric, your normal dose is going to be about 2 caps twice a day, but you can ramp it up if you're really trying to drive down inflammation and take something like 5 caps twice a day with meals. It will get you really, really good benefits. And Paleo Valley has given all my audience a special discount coupon too. If you go to paleovalley.com, use the coupon code JOCKERS, just my last name at checkout, that will save you 15% off your order. So definitely check that out, Paleo Valley Turmeric Complex, great supplement to be utilizing. And then I also want to talk about Inflam Defense, which is one of my signature products as well for reducing inflammation. This combines proteolytic enzymes, so it doesn't have super high doses like this one, but it does have proteolytic enzymes that, again, are renowned for reducing inflammation. On top of that, it's got the turmeric in there. It's got boswellia, which is basically frankincense. They talked about, this is one of the things the wise men came and brought baby Jesus, right? And Mary was frankincense. Frankincense is well known in the Middle East and Africa. Really powerful anti-inflammatory. It's used much like people use turmeric in Asia. And so, and actually research has shown that boswellia or frankincense really synergizes when it's combined with turmeric and also when it's combined with ginger. So this supplement actually has ginger, turmeric, and boswellia all in it. It also has quercetin, which is a really powerful compound that reduces inflammation and really, again, helps balance the immune system. There's also rosemary in here. We talked about that being beneficial for the brain. And there's resveratrol, which is one of the best anti-aging compounds that you can find. So all of that right in here. And it's also got bioflavonoids. Bioflavonoids really are great for helping improve circulation and reducing inflammation in our arterial beds, in our blood vessels. So really good from that perspective as well. So again, with this, the normal dosage is 2 caps twice a day away from meals. However, you can ramp it up and take 5, even 10 caps twice a day away from meals, or even 3 times a day to get even more powerful anti-inflammatory benefits. And oftentimes I'll have people do that for short periods of time to really ramp up their ability to downregulate inflammation in their system. You know, if you're struggling with a lot of issues related to inflammation, taking high doses of some of these things for a short period of time, I mean like maybe a week, or in some cases like 3 days or a week or 10 days, can be extremely powerful for getting these things under control, getting your life and your health back, and then you can go on more of a maintenance dose or kind of taper down until you get to the maintenance dose, and that can be a really, really powerful strategy. So again, Inflam Defense, one of my signature products, something that I personally use on a regular basis. Proteolytic enzymes, really good. Excuse me, again, especially for like people that are dealing with a lot of issues related to pain and joints. I notice really good benefits. Proteolytic enzymes are also good for breaking down biofilms. So again, you got proteolytic enzymes in the Inflam Defense, high dose proteolytic enzymes in our Proteoenzymes product, and great for breaking down biofilms. So if you have gut infections that just don't seem to be going away, maybe you've tried antibiotics or antimicrobials, things aren't going away, this can really help break down the outer protein shell that these sorts of microbes produce, which then makes it easier for your body, your immune system, to get rid of these bad microbes. So Proteoenzymes, a lot of great benefits to these. If you want a coupon code, I do have it in the show notes. It's JOCKERS10 at checkout. And that will save you 10% off any of my products that you choose to try. But Proteoenzymes, Inflam Defense, like I talked about, and then the Turmeric Complex from Paleo Valley. If you're looking for a great whole food-based form of turmeric, this is amazing. Get all those 300 beneficial compounds and in a synergistic combination with other great herbs. This is a really good one. Again, coupon code that you can check out. It's JOCKERS at checkout for Paleo Valley. So again, hopefully this was a great training. We went through a lot of nutrition strategies, intermittent fasting we discussed, and we also talked about some of the best supplements. I mentioned probiotics, I mentioned omega-3 fats, I mentioned vitamin D. I also talked about turmeric, ginger, boswellia, also known as frankincense. I talked about proteolytic enzymes. I talked about rosemary, quercetin, resveratrol, all amazing compounds, things that you should really try. For one person, proteolytic enzymes may really move the dial for them, and they may not get as much benefit from turmeric. Another person may get more benefit from turmeric or from frankincense, boswellia, ginger, and not as much benefit from the proteolytic enzymes or from vitamin D. So experimenting and trying these things out, trying high or moderate doses of these, and seeing really what's moving the needle for you right now, I think that's a great strategy to try. And so anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you don't already so you get notified. Oh, hit the bell button as well so you get notified whenever I put up a new video so you never miss one of these important trainings. And and so if you have questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll see you guys on a future video. Be blessed.